1. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. It's just a couple minutes after 4. Today is Monday, April the 18th. This is the Planning and Zoning Committee. I do detect a quorum, but I'll run down the roll call quickly. Chair Withers, I'm present. Councilmember Bradford is present. Councilmember Gamble is present. I don't see Councilmember Hager or Councilmember Hall. Councilmember Murphy is present. Councilmember O'Connell is present. Councilmember Parker is present. Not at his seat, but he's present. That's fine. Councilmember Sepulveda, I don't see quite yet. Councilmember Van Rees is present, and Councilmember Welsh is present. We do have a lengthy agenda. I believe that most items will be on our consent calendar. So I will run through the items that are on consent, and if folks can just raise your hand or let me know if there's an item that needs to be pulled from consent, because it will take me a while just to read the captions on those. So. All right, so the first one is under resolutions. Item number 1, Resolution RS 2022-1451. The sponsors, yes. Councilmember O'Connell.
I'm sure I'm not going to be the only one that would like to discuss this, so let's go ahead and plan to pull that one.
Okay, so items 1 and do you have any other items while I'm at it? Okay, so item 1 we'll pull. Item number 2, thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Item number 2, which is Resolution RS 2022-1494. And like I said, I'll read the full captions once I get through this list because it is lengthy. So that one is on our consent agenda. Bills on second reading. Item number 3, BL 2021-831, is on neither on consent or not, but Councilmember O'Connell, do you have?
I intend to withdraw this.
Withdraw that one? Great, thank you. Item number 4 is, which is BL 2022-1169, is for deferral. Item number 5, BL 2022-1176, 1177. Again, I'm just looking for hands or signals to pull anything off of consent. Item number 7, BL 2022-1178, 1179 from Councilmember Gamble, 1180, also from Councilmember Gamble, 1181, 1182, 1183. We have a letter from Councilmember Hager, 1184. Councilmember Bradford, 1185, which is mine. 1186, we have a letter from Councilmember Roberts. 1187, we have a letter from Councilmember Sledge. 1188, we have a letter from Councilmember Sledge. 1189 is for deferral from Councilmember Murphy. Is that correct? Deferral? Okay, thank you. Item number 19, BL 2022-1212, we have a letter of approval from Councilmember Toombs. Items on third reading, BL 2021-854 from Councilmember Van Rees. Items 21 and 22, 1100 and 1101 from Councilmember Rosenberg. It's a request to defer one meeting. 1107, Councilmember Roberts, we have a letter. Item 1136, we have a letter from Councilmember Toombs. 1137, a letter from Toombs. 1138, Councilmember Taylor. 1138, we have, you're requesting to leave that one on consent. That one is for 1901 and 1903 Church Street. I know you have an amendment for the Hayes Street one, but that one's okay for consent. Great. 1139 goes with that, so we'll keep those tracking together. 1143, we have a letter from Councilmember Sledge. 1144, a letter from Councilmember Sledge. 1145 from Councilmember Toombs, we have a letter. Councilmember Taylor, for 1146, which is for Elliston Place, we have a request to defer to the second meeting in July. Just want to make sure that's correct. So we'll place that on consent to defer. Okay. 1147, Councilmember Parker is on regular consent. 1148 from Welsh. 1149, Councilmember Toombs, we have a letter of approval. Councilmember Taylor, we also have 1150, which is for 9th Avenue North and Buchanan. That's okay for sponsor, great. 1151, Councilmember Parker. 1153, Councilmember Toombs, we have a letter. 1154 is the Hay Street one. We do have an amendment for that, so we'll need to take that one up. 1157 and 58 from Councilmember Swope, who's requested consent and is present. 1159, we have a letter from Councilmember Roberts, also 1160. 1161, we have an amendment from Councilmember Evans, so we'll need to add that on with 1162. Do any of those items that I've read off, whether for approval or deferral, need to be pulled from the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, so I will read all of those captions, and then I will go to Councilmember, to Vice Chair Rutherford for a motion on the consent calendar. So this begins with item number 2, Resolution RS 2022-1494. The sponsors are Councilmembers Johnston, Sepulveda, Gamble, and others. Appropriates $260,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funds from Fund Number 30216 to identify strategies to assist independent music venues in recovering from the impacts of COVID-19 and other acute stresses. That's consent to approve. Item number 3, BL 2021-831. The sponsors are Councilmembers O'Connell, Bradford, and Parker. This pertains to short-term rentals, and the sponsors requested to withdraw that one. Item number 4, BL 2022-1169. Sponsors are Councilmembers Benedict, Allen, and Withers. This is for a lease agreement between Metro Government and East End Prep. The sponsor has requested a one-meeting deferral, so we'll have that on a consent for a deferral. Item number 5, BL 2022-1176. The sponsors are O'Connell, Withers, and Young. Authorizes Metro to abandon easement rights for 6 properties located at Hayes Street and 16th Avenue North. Item number 6, BL 2022-1177. The sponsors are Councilmembers Allen, Withers, and Young. Authorizes Metro to enter into an agreement with Rock Block Flats LLC, here and known after as the developer, to provide improved public sanitary service through the construction of an improved stormwater system. Item number 7, sponsors are Councilmembers Syracuse, Withers, and Young. Authorizes Metro Government to negotiate and accept an easement for the Delrose Drive Stormwater Improvement Project for 2 properties located at 120 and 122 Delrose Drive. Item number 8, ordinance number BL 2022-1179. The sponsors are Councilmembers Gamble, Withers, and Young. Authorizes Metro to accept new sanitary sewer and water mains, manholes, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements for property located at Brick Church Pike Unnumbered, also known as Mulberry Downs Phase 4. Item number 9, ordinance BL 2022-1180. The sponsors are Councilmembers Gamble, Withers, and Young. Authorizes Metro to abandon existing fire hydrant assembly and to accept new water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, and sanitary sewer manholes and easements for property located at 3517 Brick Church Pike, also known as Mulberry Downs Phase 5. Item number 10, ordinance BL 2022-1181. The sponsors are Councilmembers Gamble, Withers, and Young. Authorizes Metro Government to accept new sanitary sewer and water main, sanitary sewer manholes, fire hydrant assembly, and easements for property located at 3517 Brick Church Pike, also known as Mulberry Downs Phase 6. Item number 11, ordinance number BL 2022-1182. The sponsors are Councilmembers O'Connell, Withers, and Young. Authorizes Metro Government to accept a new sanitary sewer manhole and easement for property located at 1721B 6th Avenue North, also known as 6th Avenue North Townhomes. Item number 12, ordinance BL 2022-1183. The sponsors are Councilmembers Hager, Withers, and Young. Authorizes Metro to accept new sanitary sewer force main appurtenance and easements for property at 3233 Lakeshore Drive, also known as Lakeshore Drive Phase 1. Item number 13, ordinance BL 2022-1184. The sponsors are Councilmembers Bradford, Withers, and Young. Authorizes Metro to abandon existing water main and easements and to accept a new water main, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements for property located at 2 Dell Parkway. Item number 14, ordinance BL 2022-1185. The sponsors are Councilmembers Withers and Young. Authorizes Metro Government to accept new sanitary sewer and water mains, sanitary sewer manholes, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements for property located at 3214 Murfreesboro Pike, also known as Hamilton Hills. Item number 15, ordinance BL 2022-1186. The sponsors are Councilmembers Roberts, Withers, and Young. Authorizes Metro Government to accept new sanitary sewer and water main, sanitary sewer manholes, fire hydrant assembly, and easements for property located at 7256 Centennial Place. Item number 16, Ordinance BL 2022-1187. The sponsors are Councilmember Sledge, Withers, and Young. Authorizes Metro government to accept new sanitary sewer main and sanitary sewer manhole for property located at 4G Trimble Street, also known as Wharf Avenue Townhomes. Item number 17, Ordinance BL 2022-1188. The sponsors are Councilmember Sledge, Withers, and Young. Authorizes Metro to abandon existing sanitary sewer and water mains, sanitary sewer manholes, fire hydrant assembly, and easements, and to accept new sanitary sewer and water mains, sanitary sewer manholes, fire hydrant assembly, and easements for 16 properties located at 8th Avenue South and Bass Street, also known as the 910 8th Avenue South development. Item number, all those are for consent for approval. Item number 18, Ordinance BL 2022-1189. The sponsors are Councilmember Murphy, Withers, and Young. Authorizes Metro to abandon existing public sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manhole, and easement, and to accept new sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manhole, and easement for property located at 3800 Charlotte Avenue. The sponsor, Councilmember Murphy, requests a 2-meeting deferral. Item number 19, Ordinance BL 2022-1212. The sponsor is Councilmember Toombs, approves a participation agreement between Metro government through the Metro Board of Parks and Recreation and CRP/WP Alta Metro Center Owner LLC for trailhead improvements at the Metro Center Levee Greenway. That is for consent to approve. This brings us to bills on third reading. Item number 20, Ordinance BL 2021-854. The sponsor is Councilmember Van Rees. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by applying a neighborhood landmark overlay district to property located at 435 Old Hickory Boulevard at the southeast corner of Donna Drive and Old Hickory Boulevard to permit small event and short-term rentals, all of which is described herein. That is for consent for approval. Items 21 and 22 will be for deferral. Those are ordinances BL 2022-1100 and 1101. Amends Metro Code by amending a specific plan for properties located at 5754 River Road and River Road unnumbered, approximately 750 feet west of Charlotte Pike, zoned SP R40 and 80, to add 5.9 acres to the SP and permit 160 multifamily residential units, all of which is described herein. That's number 1100. The companion bill 1101 adds material restrictions, and for those two items, they are tracking for a 1-meeting deferral at the request of the sponsor. Item number 23, Ordinance BL 2022-1107. The sponsor is Councilmember Roberts. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from R6 to RM15A zoning for property located at 824 Watts Lane, approximately 430 feet southeast of Charlotte Pike. Item number 24, Ordinance BL 2022-1136. The sponsor is Councilmember Toombs. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from RM2 to SP zoning for property located at 820 Youngs Lane, approximately 200 feet south of Youngs Lane, to permit 21 multifamily residential units, all of which is described herein. The companion bill 1137 applies materials restrictions to the same property. Item number 26, Ordinance BL 2022-1138. The sponsor is Councilmember Taylor. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from CF and MUIA to SP zoning for property located at 1901 and 1903 Church Street and 1902 Hayes Street at the southwest corner of 19th Avenue North and Church Street to permit a mixed-use development, all of which is described herein. Item number 27, which is BL 2022-1139, addresses the same properties and adds material restrictions. Item number 28 and 29 is another pair. 1120 Ordinance BL 2022-1143 amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from R6 to SP zoning for property located at 1020 Southside Court at the southeast corner of South Street and 12th Avenue South to permit 355 multifamily residential units. The companion bill 1144 applies material restrictions to those properties, and we have a letter from the sponsor to approve. Item number 30, ordinance number BL 2022-1145. That's the sponsor is Councilmember Toombs. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from RS10 to R10 zoning for property located at 1816 and 1818 Ashton Avenue, approximately 365 feet of Hydes Ferry Road. Item number 31, BL 2022-1146. The sponsor is Councilmember Taylor, amends the Metro Zoning Code by applying a historic landmark overlay district for a portion of property located at 2208 Elliston Place at the northern corner of Elliston Place and Louise Avenue, Zone CS. Of course, this is for the Exit In property, and this is on consent for deferral to the second meeting in July. Item number 32, Ordinance BL 2022-1147. The sponsor is Councilmember Parker, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from CS to R6A zoning for property located at 125A, B, and C Kingston Street, approximately 670 feet east of Dickerson Pike. Item number 33, which is Ordinance BL 2022-1148. The sponsor is Councilmember Welsh, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from RS 7.5 to R8 zoning for properties located at 193 and 201 Antioch Pike, located approximately 200 feet east of Kinross Avenue. Item number 34, which is Ordinance BL 2022-1149. The sponsor is Councilmember Toombs, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from RS10 to R10 zoning for property located at 1804 County Hospital Road, approximately 225 feet northeast of Doak Avenue. Item number 35, which is Ordinance BL 2022-1150. The sponsor is Councilmember Taylor, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from CS and RS5 to SP zoning for properties located at 1701, 1703, 1705, 07, 09, 11, 9th Avenue North, and 901 Buchanan Street, approximately 360 feet of 10th Avenue North, to permit a mixed-use development. Item number 36, which is Ordinance number BL 2022-1151. The sponsor is Councilmember Parker, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from RS5 to R6A zoning for property located at 1312 Joseph Avenue, approximately 60 feet south of East Moreland Street. Item number 37, BL 2022-1153. The sponsor is Councilmember Toombs, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from RS5 to R6 zoning for property located at 110A Fern Street, approximately 140 feet west of Birch Avenue. Item number 38, we have an amendment. Item number 39, which is Councilmember Swope. The companion bill is item number 40. These are bill numbers 2022-1157 and 1158. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from R40 to SP zoning for properties located at 5617, 5621, and 5625 Valley View Road, approximately 545 feet south of Old Riga Boulevard, to permit 12 multifamily units. The companion bill 1158 applies material restrictions to those properties. Item number 41, Ordinance number BL 2022-1159. The sponsor is Councilmember Roberts, as well as item number 42, BL 2022-1160. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from IR to SP zoning for properties located at 1101 and 1111 63rd Avenue North, approximately 90 feet southwest of New York Avenue, to permit a mixed-use development. The companion bill 1160 applies material restrictions to those properties. That is it for our lengthy caption for our consent agenda. Could I call on Vice Chair Rutherford to make a motion for the consent calendar?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of that lengthy consent agenda.
Let me go over to Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry. Before we vote on that, I had a request from Councilmember Allen to pull number 5 from consent, BL 2022-1176. And other than that, I'm good to go.
Great. While we're at it, are there any other items, last call, that need to be removed from consent? Seeing none, Vice Chair has a motion for the consent calendar. Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. The consent calendar passes. So now we're going to go through our items for which folks have requested discussion. What I would like to do, I think there may be a little bit of discussion with regard to the Global Mall site. What I'd like to do maybe is move that to the heel of the discussion so we can take up the other items, which I think might be a little bit more streamlined, if that is okay. So those items, I believe, would begin with item number 5. Councilmember Allen?
3 conversations at once. Are we on the bill that I asked Councilmember O'Connell? So I'm just asking, we have several large upzonings on Hayes Street, and I just wanted to hear the water department say, yes, it is no problem to give up easements on Hayes Streets, that we don't think we'll need them in the near future to add additional capacity.
Okay, and so Councilmember O'Connell, are you wishing to move the bill for discussion?
Yeah, I'm happy to entertain. So I'll move the bill, and then we can hear from water.
From Metro Water? Great. Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Is there a second to move the bill? Great. Do we have a representative from Metro Water who could answer Councilmember Allen's question? Looks like we do have a gentleman approaching the which one is that? Which, Mr. Snyder, is that?
Yeah.
Are you?
Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yes, we're fine with abandoning those easements. That's fine.
Any other questions from council members for Mr. Snyder?
As long as that satisfies Councilmember Allen, I'm good. All right, then I will renew my motion to approve.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Councilmember O'Connell. And thank you, Mr. Snyder. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. So that one is approved. Then I think we go all the way down to this. Then I think we go to Councilmember Taylor's for Hayes Street. Councilmember O'Connell?
I may have missed this on the order of the agenda. Are we holding RS 22-1451 for later? Item 1.
Yes, yeah, I'm just trying to get through the other things that might be a little bit more streamlined.
Good deal.
So we
Thanks.
can hold the rest of our time for that. So I think next is 38. All right, so next we have item number 38. Can I get a member of the committee to move that bill? This is ordinance BL 2022-1154 for 1705 Hayes Street. Great, thank you. So we have an amendment from Councilmember Taylor, and I'll go ahead and recognize Councilmember Taylor at this time.
Thank you, Chair. 1705 Hayes Street, I had a chance to visit with the individuals that live across the street from it that came and spoke with us last meeting. And just a few things that came out of that meeting to add to this, to help this project and development be a little better. One is just one of the things I noticed when I drove by there is that there's a building that's currently being constructed with a lot of on-street, on-site parking and streets that are being blocked. So I've asked the developer to, we've added into this to ask the developer to have off-site parking, privatized parking, not in the right-of-way, not in public streets. So they would have to be shuttled into the construction. Also, after the completion of the exterior work, for them to pave a portion of Hayes Street between 17th and 18th Avenue, which is where they're going to be doing the most of their work. So adding that back in to give us a good ride. And then next is with the final site plan, some off-site improvements to curbs and ramps on 17th Avenue North. And then finally, do a roadway safety audit shall be conducted by the developer. And so during the process, they should do a roadway safety audit. So those are just 4 additional conditions that we wanted to add in. So hopefully the planning committee feels good about them. I feel good about them. I think it's going to, again, increase the opportunity for this to be a better project.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Taylor, for bringing that amendment and for your ongoing work with that, and also for thinking collaboratively with our NDOT department about not just the roadside safety during the construction, but also making any necessary repairs to the street surface afterward. That I'm sure is greatly appreciated. So any other discussion on the amendment at this time? All right, so I will, if that's the case, I'll call all in favor of the amendment. Please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So the amendment is recommended for approval now for the bill as amended. Any other discussion? I'll call on Councilmember Allen. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Even though I'm not on the committee, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to ask one more question. I think this is one we need to ask more frequently on large projects, which is there a waste disposal plan? Because sometimes in these very narrow spaces, what they end up doing is there's no way just to have the big dumpster get emptied, and so there are little trucks that run and put them somewhere else, and nobody's gotten permission to do that. So I don't know that I'm asking to hold this one up if there's not a waste disposal plan, but I'm asking that question and asking council members to begin to think about that, because it becomes an issue where Metro public land is now being used to stage dumpsters so that 10 of them can be emptied at once, and that could well be the case here. Does anybody know? That's what I would love for either the council member or NDOT, or I guess Water Services to answer.
Well, Councilmember Taylor, did you hear the question about the waste disposal?
I'm talking trash.
Did you want to address that, or would you, Councilmember Taylor, Councilmember Taylor, I'll go ahead and recognize, did you want to recognize a Metro staff employee or other member of the audience?
Well, I asked if someone would like to be recognized, but I asked Director Alacron with NDOT, but this would be more of a
Water Services now.
Service. We can, I'm not sure if anyone's here, but maybe we can get someone here to help answer that question a little bit better.
Okay.
I can. Thank you.
Just be good to ask.
I'll recognize the planning table.
So I will say that there is an NDOT comment regarding trash collection, and it will be through a private hauler, and it's internal to the site. And so the trash collection location is off of the alley, but it's internal, if that makes sense.
Councilmember Taylor, would you like me to recognize Mr. Snyder again?
Yes, I will ask Councilmember Allen to pose a question again for Mr. Snyder.
And you're on, Councilmember Allen.
Thank you. I just have noticed that in some places where there's a very constrained site, even if they have a spot for the dumpster, they still have to employ other little trucks to stage the dumpsters out in the street, or they use somebody's private parking lot. And that, I'm not sure that's actually a plan that's thought through. So I'm just asking if we are beginning to require that as part of the information in planning, and if we have that on this particular one.
Well, fortunately, Mr. Honeysucker just stepped beside me. I was going to make a general comment. I know during the planning part of this, they do make those considerations, but as far as specifically for this one, I'm going to pass this baton to Mr. Honeysucker, the content expert.
My apologies, Councilman Lady. Can you repeat the question? John Honeysucker, Assistant Director, Waste Services.
So my question was, do we, as part of the planning process now, I know at one point I had spoken with Sharon Smith about requiring an official waste disposal plan that explains not only where the dumpster is going to sit, but how you're going to empty the dumpster. Because what I'm seeing in my part of town is that they are pulling the dumpsters out and setting 10 of them on Metro right-of-way at 8 o'clock at night, and then the big truck comes through and dumps all those. And that's fine if we're paying for extra wear and tear on our streets or whatever, but I just feel like that needs to be something that's figured out on the front end and not worked out at the expense of private property later. So in general, are we doing that? And specifically, do we have the waste plan, including how the dumpster gets emptied for this property?
For private properties, the one private contractors, we do have something in place specifically on the hours of operation. I know that was one of the big concerns, that those were being pulled out at 3 and 4 and operating, especially in downtown downtown corridor being dumped all throughout the night, and there are a lot of complaints. And we have to reach out directly to the specific companies, asking them to stay within the guidelines that Metro has set forth. We do have a program set up for that. It's I think the way we run as a deficiency is that our enforcement of that, and that's something that we're working on now to try to better improvise.
Do you have any further questions or comments, Councilmember Allen?
No, that's good. I just think it's a question we need to be asking as part of the planning process.
I agree, and thank you so much for raising that. So, any other discussion on the floor? If not, we have an amendment that's approved, and we have a motion to move the bill as amended. So, all in favor of the bill as amended, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that ordinance for 1705 Hay Street is recommended by our committee for approval with the amendment. So our last item is for Councilmember Evans. It's items 43 and 44. Is that right? Those are the only two we have left? Yeah. So Councilmember Evans, sorry about that. So Councilmember Evans has bill numbers, item numbers 43 and 44, which are ordinance BL 2022-1161. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and read the caption for that, and then there's also related to that, is that right? Item number 44. Why don't we not take Anyway, we'll take 1161 just to keep it simple. We'll take 1161. So the caption for this is that it amends the Metro zoning code by changing from CS to SP zoning for property located at 3887 Central Pike, approximately 170 feet west of Central Court, and located within a planned unit development overlay district to permit up to 112 multifamily units, all of which is described herein. And I will turn it over to Councilmember Evans.
Thank you. I'd like to move my amendment.
Great. So is there a second on the amendment? We have a second. If you would go ahead and describe your amendment for us.
Thank you. My amendment basically adds a couple of conditions with the developer about where signage will be located on Central Pike. And there was one other thing that it did, and it's escaping me, but it's a very minor amendment to button that up.
Great, thank you. So any further discussion on the amendment? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The amendment is recommended. Now you're up for this bill as amended.
Thank you. I'd like to move approval.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so this one is recommended for approval with the amendment. We do still have item number 1162, which amends the Metro zoning code, which is ordinance BL 2022-1162, amends the Metro zoning code by canceling a portion of a planned unit development located at 3887 Central Pike, the same location. And Councilmember Evans, would you like to move that bill?
I would love to move that bill, please.
Great. We have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, no. Any abstentions? Great. Councilmember Evans, your ordinance is recommended for approval. So this brings us back to our remaining item, agenda item, which is item number 1, which is Resolution RS 2022-1451. The sponsors are Councilmember Stiles, Porterfield, Allen, and others, which approves 2 option agreements authorizing the purchase of properties comprising part of the Global Mall site. Do we have a member of the committee wish to move the bill? It's moved and seconded, and so then I will recognize Councilmember Stiles as the district council member, and any other, Councilmember O'Connell, did you wish to speak on this item as well? I'll go ahead and start, Councilmember O'Connell, if that's okay with Councilmember Stiles, but yeah. Councilmember Stiles, you're recognized.
Thank you so very much, Chair. Thank you much for letting me speak to this bill. I'm very excited about this opportunity. This bill would allow us to move forward with movement on a site that has been blighted for 15 years. Not only has it been blighted, but we have an opportunity to bring in a company that will provide jobs for the community, as well as an opportunity to help create a live-work space that we do not have right now. I'm hoping that you will all take that into consideration. This is a good move for the community. I know that this may seem like a deal for Metro, but this is a deal for the community first and foremost. If it was not, I would not be supporting it. And as you listen to the answers to the questions that were submitted, you will hear that. You will hear that this is community-based. It is not focused on Metro. And if there are any questions that anyone has, I am more than happy to answer them. I know this does feel quick, but this is a good thing. And with that, I will turn it right back over to you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Stiles, for your work on that. And we do have a lot of information that has come through our email from the administration, so there's a lot of information out there. What I am going to request, since I know this one will go to a couple of different committees, well, specifically to Budget and Finance, is that for our time in this committee, if we could try to focus our discussion and questions a little bit more on the kind of planning and infrastructure side. I know there's a lot of question about leases and financing, and that those questions are a little bit better addressed by the Budget and Finance Committee. But with that, I've got Councilmember O'Connell, and then I believe Councilmember Parker. So I'll start with Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first, I do want to recognize Councilmember Stiles. I know just from having served with her how committed she is to getting things right at this site. I think she's done an excellent job of advocating for her community, and I think I'm trying very hard to go into this conversation recognizing and trusting the leadership she's got on display and having to reconcile that with some of the information we've received from the administration and making sure we can get through all this. I guess my first question is going to be for Ms. Darby, and I've two, and then we can go on to others. I don't think this will take too long. The first one is in response to an email we got last week about the concept. I think I'd be shocked if I'm the only person that thinks having some more time to consider this would be fully appropriate, and I want to make sure I understand that if we defer this, we know where the contract extension dates are, but I understand there's this provision about not having capital spending items be able to be processed while a budget is pending, an operating budget. Is it possible to suspend the rules to make that possible? Like, we could defer and not completely take it off the table, but in doing so, we would suspend the rules. Is that correct?
That's correct. You would need to suspend the rules. It's Rule 21 that prohibits the legislation that would enact any sort of debt obligation from moving forward or being considered actually during the pendency of the budget ordinance.
All right, great. So that is important to understand that is just a rule. That is not something that is in law or in charter. So we just have a rule that says we would need to suspend it in order to consider the two at the same time. That makes me actually more comfortable with the idea of a deferral. Now, I think, Mr. Chair, to your point about keeping this focused on not the fiscal scenario, I guess I would ask maybe the broader question of, this is taking the unusual step of putting Metro in the position of being a commercial real estate developer. And so if we think that there is a significant public good in coming from an investment in land in Southeast Nashville, which I could very easily be persuaded is the case, especially knowing that the idea here is rehabilitation of a dead mall site, why would we not propose to make the acquisition and then do a strategic master plan for the site rather than come to the table with a hand-picked tenant and a few other things that are in the mix? It just makes so much more sense to me to do the strategic master plan first, and I'll go back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Councilmember O'Connell. Can I recognize the administration, please?
Sure. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councilman O'Connell. In many ways, there's been an effort to revitalize this mall for at least as many years as it's been essentially vacant. Previous council members have attempted, previous legislation has been attempted, and it was really not until Councilor Lady Stiles made it sort of a singular point of focus that some real movement materialized. Vanderbilt's expression of interest has made an enormous amount of things possible that I don't suspect would be otherwise possible because of the ability to neutralize the debt service on the mall property. Until recently, we did not have that opportunity, and if that were to be forsaken, I imagine there'd be an issue with whether or not we could do any sort of master planning on this whatsoever. As it is, we have, with respect to the property that Metro would retain, the entire mall site, being the focus of a study that planning is initiating for highest and best uses, discussion of the potential uses and proposed uses and the viability thereof. I think that will suffice for purposes of maximizing Metro's uses of the property and verifying that Vanderbilt's uses are indeed conducive to what the community has expressed. It has appeared that the uses being contemplated so far are in line with what Councilor Stiles' constituents have requested over. I think she's conducted a half dozen community meetings specific to what particular uses they would want. So far, we think we're in alignment, but there's much more to be done following the acquisition. Of course, if this were to be acquired solely by a private entity, we lose that capability. I want to turn back to Councilor Stiles just to make sure I've captured what she's been doing for the past year and a half, determining those uses, and I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you. I'll go back to Councilmember O'Connell first, and then I'll recognize Councilmember Stiles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd have a couple of follow-ups based on Mr. Jamison's response, but I'm happy to defer to a couple other members to get new questions started if they like.
Great. Thank you so much. I'll now go to Councilmember Stiles, and then I have Councilmember Parker in line. And if anyone else wishes, please raise your hand. But go ahead, Councilmember Stiles.
Thank you, Chair. If I might ask that Councilmember O'Connell ask his follow-up, I might be able to respond to some of that now. I know it's your discretion.
Yeah. Do you have any response to the discussion we've had up to this moment, or?
Yes, I was going to try and make it a whole kit and caboodle response.
I understand, but.
So in purchasing this site, which I know is unusual, we would be able to determine and enforce community needs. I think that's something that's important for us to bear in mind. Yes, I have had 6 community meetings, and we start another 6 months of community meeting along with planning next Tuesday night, and I invite all of you to stop by. My community meetings are usually the last Wednesday of every month. This month it's going to be on Tuesday the 26th at 6 p.m. Please come. Lucy Kemp will be there. We're going to begin speaking about what this site will look like and talk about all the things that we determined over the last year and a half that the community needs first. That's what we need to determine.
Great.
I hope that helps.
Thank you for that for now. If it's okay, I'll go to Councilmember Parker, then I see Councilmember Bradford, so I'll recognize Councilmember Parker next.
Thank you, Chair. And this question is maybe about this property specifically, but a little bit more generally about how a property acquisition like this works. And specifically, this property is this proposal is to purchase it with general obligation bonds, but we sort of have a tenant lined up who we know is going to be covering a lot of the debt service on those payments. So could you explain to me and the viewing audience why we wouldn't just use a revenue bond for this, if the administration could help clarify that?
Sure. What I might do, the smartest thing I could do is ask if I could recognize our bond counsel, Jeff Oldham, and while he's approaching the podium, take a quick stab and then have him correct me. So for revenue bonds, if you're the municipal owner and it is for a municipal use, you, in a nutshell, won't have the revenue to pay back the bonds. What you've seen revenue bonds allocated for are those uses that itself generate pretty substantial revenues for. So a sports stadium, for example, which the Sports Authority has the authority to issue, can apply those revenues towards payment of the revenue bonds. Should these properties be used by Metro or Metro entities or nonprofit entities, that's not so much an option there. Let me turn it over to Mr. Oldham if I could.
One moment, but I appreciate the question, Councilmember Parker, and I think this is still a little bit in the planning and zoning side as it relates to sort of metro property acquisition strategy generally. So I'll allow that discussion for now, but hopefully maybe some of the more details of that we can hash out in finance. But I do think it's a good question as it relates to planning and land use strategy. But I'll go ahead and recognize the
Jeff Oldham, Bass Pro Sims, Bond Counsel of the Metro. I think Mr. Jameson said it right from a legal perspective. Until the actual deal is done with Vanderbilt, it is just Metro property. And so two things. One is appropriate then for Metro to finance it that way. And the second is I think you'd be hard pressed to get anybody to finance it looking to Vanderbilt until the Vanderbilt deal's done. So there's this interim period where I think the administration thinks that it's appropriate to use Metro financing when it is really a Metro asset and only a Metro asset.
Thank you, that makes sense. And I have one other follow-up question as it relates to this process, if that's all right, Chair. So to be clear, so general obligation bonds, we purchased with that, and then it's my understanding that it would be sort of refinanced at some point through an entity such as IDB or health and educational facilities if we were to come to a lease agreement with a tenant such as Vanderbilt. Is that accurate?
Right, that's generally accurate. So keep in mind, there's not a bond issuance. At the moment of approval, the Metropolitan government issues commercial paper, which gives us some options depending on how the transaction flows from there. But you're entirely right. It could be then issued through the IDB, probably not the Health and Educational Facilities Board for a couple of reasons, namely that there is not a provision under state law that allows us to enter into a contribution agreement with the HEFB. We have that only with the IDB. I'm probably violating the chair's rule on financing, but that's the short answer.
I was trying to keep it to, things related to our property acquisition strategy, but, I think we're going to bleed over, that's going to bleed over into budget. So anyway, thank you, Chair, for indulging me there.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilmember Parker, for those questions. I believe the next person I saw was Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you, Chair. This question, I think it does pertain to our discussion here. If it may be budget finance, just let me know. When we've been discussing this, a lot of times it's come up about 100 Oaks and other properties that Vanderbilt leases out. My question is, does Metro own any of the other buildings that Vanderbilt leases?
Not that I'm aware of.
So why can't Vanderbilt lease this property from the current owner? Why does Metro have to buy it first?
I think it's more an issue of opportunity. In this particular case, Vanderbilt has made clear they, for their own reasons, do not want to be the acquiring property, and also made clear to the mayor that they would not deal with any commercial entity. They would only proceed if Metro was the owner. There are representatives from Vanderbilt here in the room that can verify that. But proceeding with this being a property that Metro controls was, I think, key to Council Lady Stiles and her constituents' vision for the property. If it's wholly privately owned, we will not have the opportunity to insist upon its community-based uses. And that was the underlying principle and agreement for this.
To that second, about control of the site and not having any control, wouldn't there be a lot that would have to still come through, say, planning department, planning commission, where the community could have a say in what is going on out there?
You would, but that would entail if you have a private property owner who's willing to remain beholden to the community preferences. And as this chamber sees on a fairly frequent basis, that is not typically what we expect of the private property owners. As long as they're complying within the zoning constraints, they enjoy their property development rights. This is 12 acres of property that has been somewhat of a blight on, as Council Lady Stiles Stiles referenced on the community. They are, I think it's fair to say, enormously eager for the repurposing of this property in a way that is community-oriented, community-driven, and in fact, that process will continue through the planning study and Council Lady Stiles' own continuing community efforts. That is not an option we would enjoy through private ownership.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Bradford. I see Councilmember O'Connell, Councilmember Stiles. I'm going to recognize Councilmember O'Connell, and I'll come back to you if that's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a perfect follow from Councilmember Bradford's response and the dialogue with the administration here. And I guess just a couple things I'll note in response also to the conversation we started earlier about just the idea of a master plan. So, and those are, we've rehabilitated 2 other mall sites in Nashville in recent years, the Bellevue Mall and 100 Oaks. And in neither of those cases did we outlay a $46 million expenditure to get that land to be public land. Bellevue in particular absorbed a considerable amount of community preference, but did not require a large land acquisition. In fact, had the same, very similar, in fact, public investment in getting an ICE center and a community center adjacent to a privately redeveloped scenario that involved a TIF, effectively. And I guess related to the point that was just made, private property is redeveloped all the time with no community preference considered whatsoever. However, in many cases, we do something like happened at Bellevue or scenarios that involve something like a community benefit agreement. If we were using the criterion that we're describing here, Metro would buy all available land. And so I'm still just trying to understand how this approach and strategy makes sense for a conversation where we everybody in here, I think, knows we want to do something to rehabilitate a blighted mall. We've done it successfully twice. This is an unusual approach, and I'm personally still trying to understand why we're taking this approach.
For that, since that goes to the specifics of this acquisition strategy, I'll go to the administration again first for a response, and then I'll recognize Councilmember Stiles, who may want to speak to the community engagement piece. But Mr. Jameson.
I think the 2 distinctions that come to mind immediately was, first, in this instance, we are stepping into pre-existing purchase options that other parties hold and had set terms, closing date terms, et cetera, that we would be stepping into the shoes of. In the case, those were not the cases with respect to 100 Oaks or Bellevue. Also, the enormous distinction here was that in neither of those cases did we have a singular leasehold interest party that had the resources for substantial renovation stepping in. It was a multiple combination of others. That has not, for reasons that have to deal with the viability of commercial real estate, that was not the case with respect to Hickory Hollow Mall, now Global Mall.
All right, so thank you, Mr. Jameson. I'll now go back to Councilmember Stiles. You're recognized.
Thank you very much again, Chair. I really want to second what Mr. Jameson just shared in terms of the community use. The amount of community engagement that has been involved here, it's not only been community meetings, but it's also been an electronic survey that was sent out over the course of 2 months to get feedback not only from just District 32, but the entirety of the Southeast. So there's been a lot of engagement. There is a hunger for this site to move forward. And also with the contracts in place and extensions, we do want to be mindful in terms of time. This is an opportunity that we need to take advantage of because at this time, it's still a great opportunity.
Thank you, Councilmember Stiles. I also saw Councilmember Murphy. Councilmember Murphy, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on a little bit of the conversation that's been happening about just Metro property in general as we're about to purchase more. The council passed last year. I was still on the Planning Commission, because I know at least I have trouble remembering where we are in time. At Councilman Hall's legislation that I co-sponsored about giving council members a list of all the Metro-owned property in their districts. Can the administration let us know when we are to receive those lists? And is there any figures that they could tell us, probably not today, but how much square footage does Metro own of buildings that are vacant? And how much are we of our buildings are we renting out to other entities and things like that? I think I would feel much more comfortable making a lot of the decisions we have tomorrow night if we had this type of information on a rolling basis. But since we can't even get it at a one-time basis and we had to legislate that, I will hold out my hope on the rolling. But so, Mr. Jameson, when are we going to get the lists of properties in our district? When can you get us a number of how many are vacant and things like that?
I will check with our General Services Department to see where the status of that report, and hopefully have whatever information they can possibly have before tomorrow night, if that's agreeable.
Well, I would venture a guess to say we don't have any other property currently owned by Metro large enough for this type of what Vanderbilt is looking for. It would be very interesting to know how much is vacant and where that's located when if we are truly talking about access to health care and to health services in this part of our county. Does it have to be on this size of a scale? Could it be broken out in smaller clinics? That's the type of information that I think would be very helpful, not just for the planning committee dealing with our properties, but probably for other committees like the health committee to discuss that as well.
All right, so that request for information has been stated from the floor. It's a little bit broader than this specific discussion, but it's still valid. Colleagues, any other discussion with regard to this property and Metro property acquisition strategy? Councilmember O'Connell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, again, this just comes back to things that I'm scratching my head about since the deal was announced, and I knew from previous conversations how hard Councilmember Stiles had worked, and I want to still honor and recognize that. I also know from work that has happened on the Murfreesboro corridor of WEGO's involvement. We saw a little bit of that in a memo we received with responses to questions on this. I guess fundamentally, though, if coming to this idea of our land acquisition strategy right now, and again, knowing that we have had very successful scenarios that involve private redevelopment of mall sites that needed rehabilitation in Nashville, this seems like if we're spending $46 million of taxpayer money using general obligation bonds to go put this out there, that the entire proposal should be front and center with things like a WeGo Transit Center, like housing, like the arts projects that I know are so important to Councilmember Stiles, and it's become bizarre to me that this is this is a good deal because we're pretty sure we can pay for it up front. I'm still not sure why we are entering the game of commercial real estate to become landlord, and the entire structure of it in that regard is still what I'm scratching my head about and have been since the original announcement. And if there are no other questions, then I may please come back to me because I'm probably going to make a motion to defer.
Great. I'll let the administration respond to that if you choose to do that, and then I'll recognize Councilmember Stiles again.
Sure. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councilman O'Connell. The three reference uses, the transit facility, housing, and the art center, those have been part and parcel of Councilor Stiles' community meetings and are part and parcel of the planning department's intended study. The transit center was among the items approved by the council in this past December in its transportation plan, and the administration working with the congressional office is discussing the congressional appropriations process. The section was cited to council members in the materials this afternoon, section 53338, discretionary funding for a transit hub. Those are all very much within the scope of potential uses, but again, subject to the community preferences that Councilor Stiles and the planning department are helping to put together.
Great. Next, thank you, Mr. Jameson. I'll next recognize Councilmember Stiles.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I'm happy to touch on those three topics of the transportation, of affordable housing, I think that the arts is self-explanatory. But when we started having these community conversations about the site and what could possibly be there, transportation did come up, and we did not delve deeply into it, but those are going to be part of the conversations that we have starting next week. And again, having spoken with Lucy and also having spoken with Steve Bland, I think we're in a very good position to speak about the future of this site and what the community needs. As many of you know, the Southeast is the fastest growing area in the city. We have more and more people moving there every single day, and we do have a need for transportation and safe transportation. And certainly talking about this and coming up with an effective plan is very important. And affordable housing will also be a part of that conversation. It did come up. The first thing that was suggested by community members was housing for artists. So that is something that we will discuss and how that can happen. And I am more than happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Stiles. We do have, since we are on the topic of transportation and that is related to planning, I'm wondering if we could call on some of the WeGo representatives who are present to speak to that piece a little bit. Just for the planning study edification. I know we have a finance piece that's coming up and we are running a little bit late, but I know that this particular proposal is multifaceted, so I appreciate everyone's time. So I'll recognize Mr. Steve Bland. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Council Lady Stiles. First of all, the planning study that the council members referring to, that planning's undertaking, they did engage us in helping to develop the scope for that study, but I'll even go back, and I know Councilman O'Connell will remember this, that the network of neighborhood and regional transit centers throughout Davidson County, first one that we opened in Councilman Pulley's district a couple weeks ago, another one that we're working on in North Nashville, was part of the N-Motion plan adopted back in 2016. And then was again kind of readopted in the Metro Nashville Transportation Plan back in 2020. So the transportation center facility that we're talking about in the Hickory Hollow area is really part of those ongoing pieces, and both of those efforts did have certainly engagement of the Southeast Nashville community as well as broader. And what it really is just making an existing transportation facility better, more robust, more regional in nature, and capable of handling a broader array of services in the future, in the context of whatever else happens around it at that site. So as I know the council member knows, it's probably a generational opportunity to, quote, get it right. So that's certainly our hope in participating in that process.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bland. I've got Councilmember Van Rees, Councilmember Hancock, and then Councilmember Parker. So I'll next recognize Councilmember Van Rees. There you go.
Yes, I'd like to go ahead and just move approval of this, please.
All right. Is there a second? Any other discussion? All right, we will try this, and I may need to call upon my esteemed counsel to assist with this just in case. But so we have a motion and a second for approval from committee members. Is there a point of order, Councilmember O'Connell? Okay, point of order.
I can't remember how this works, and that committees may be different, but Ms. Darby, if one wanted to defer, if a motion, I think we already had a motion to get discussion going. At this point, how does a motion to defer work? Can you make a motion in the middle of a motion to approve? I mean, I think we're discussing the bill, I believe, because there was a motion to approve.
I'm so sorry.
That is true. There's already a motion on the floor for approval. At this point, the proper motion would be a called question motion to have the vote on the motion on the floor.
I've already spoken, but with the grace in mind, I called question.
Proper motion.
With grace in mind, yes, that would be a proper motion, or someone else could make the motion. The rules in committee are a little different.
Less clear. It sounds like, with all due respect, Councilor Van Rees, it sounds like the Planning Committee wants to discuss this a little bit more with regard to planning issues specifically. So I'm going to continue going down the list, but thank you. Next, I'll call on Councilmember Hancock.
you for recognizing me, even though I'm not in this committee. In addition to the other concerns that were mentioned of transportation at this particular site, I'd like to mention that less than 3 months ago, we had the grand opening of Pencil Box Auxiliary Location in Antioch, which was supported in person by Councilman Stiles and Mayor Cooper. Now they're trying to find a new location because they're being asked to exit their facility, and I would like the body, as well as Councilman Stiles and the mayor's office, to consider allocating a small amount of square footage. I think it's a 800,000 square foot building, and Pencil would need 3,000 square feet. They could even do with as low as 1,500 if necessary, but Pencil is an organization that serves our entire city, that serves teachers and students across the city. Right now, their only location that's stable is on the west side, and I remember hearing Councilman Stiles and Mayor Cooper speak with passion about how much the teachers in Southeast needed that location, and I sincerely believe they still need that location. I would like that to be considered as everyone is contemplating this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Hancock, and for all your advocacy for education and educators and students in the city. I'm going to quickly go back to Councilmember Stiles, and then I'll go to Councilmember Parker. Councilmember Stiles.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councilmember Hancock. To the issue that you just raised, that actually has a solution that is in place, but I would like to stress situations such as Pencil are a prime opportunity. With the city owning this location, we can begin to have better conversations about nonprofit co-working space. There are many needs in the Southeast that can be served by owning this site and having space to provide for these nonprofits to have a permanent home. So I would like to say, because I'm not sure if I'll have another opportunity, but I would encourage you, colleagues, to please vote yes. This is a yes not only for the Southeast, this is a yes for the entirety of the city. Because as you will remember, this site used to serve the entire city. It was the first mall in the entire state. And we are moving back in that direction, moving forward with this purchase. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Stiles. And I know Councilmember Suarez raised your hand. I'm going to, and I know everyone's anxious about budget and finance. I'm trying to keep this discussion focused a little bit on the planning and zoning side so that we can delve into those very detailed matters in the next committee, which is running late. And I know Councilmember Parker's committee is running late too. But I'll go ahead and recognize Councilmember Parker, and then I'll recognize you, Councilmember Suarez. Go ahead.
Previous question.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to, okay, so previous question.
There's a motion on the floor, which is to approve, so the previous question.
The previous question is a motion to approve, so.
No, they need to vote on the previous question, and then you would go to the motion to approve.
Okay, so I'm going to do a roll call vote. I'm going to do a roll call vote on the previous question. So, Chair, I will vote aye. Councilmember Bradford? No. Councilmember Gamble? Councilmember Hager is absent. Councilmember Hall's absent. Councilmember Murphy? It's just up, down will work for me. So previous question, which is motion to approve. Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
No. Okay. Councilmember O'Connell? Councilmember Parker? Vice Chair Rutherford? Councilmember Van Rees? Councilmember Welsh? No. Okay, so.
Sepulveda's here.
Councilmember Sepulveda is present. Councilmember, just up or down for previous question? No. Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Previous question fails.
So what you got, 4 and 6?
I got 5 and 4.
Previous question fails, so we will continue our discussion, and I believe that next I have Councilmember Suarez.
Thank you, Chair. I had a lot of question about the deal, but most of my question is finance and budget related, and I know it will be addressed there. But when it comes to the acquisition of property, what I wanted to just put out there is that when each and every one of us is looking to buy a property, when we know there's going to be a rental in there, that is an incentive to buy. when you also know that you're going to control the building, wherein you have access to what goes in the building, that is an incentive to buy. If you choose not to, then when somebody else owns it, you may not have access or control over what goes in there. And you may have to come back looking for money to rent or to buy from somebody else. So I just want us to think about that in terms, and I want to keep the conversation about buying separate from the financial part of it. The financial part we'll deal with, but in terms of whether it makes sense to always buy or put yourself at the mercy of someone, this is something the community needs. This is something the community wants. Owning it outright is a better decision when you're talking about property acquisition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Suara. I'll next go to Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I'm going to principally raise these as observations and concerns that, again, speak to my not being ready yet to advance this deal as proposed. And this kind of comes back to the idea of, Metro buying this land, therefore this should be something that has broad public interest, right? And so one of the questions that the administration responded to was related to the Know Your Community report from 2021 prepared by Metro Social Services, which notes that Southeast Nashville, with the epicenter right around this proposed acquisition, has the largest concentration of Nashvillians who lack health insurance, right? So as we do this, we need to be mindful of the policies there. Again, my sense is, and I guess this is where the question comes in for the administration, is as we plan our resources, a simple lease agreement is not going to trigger provisions of do better, is not going to trigger the diversity and inclusion policies that we have in place for lessees, and is generally not going to look at kind of a policy-based approach to it being public land where we can offer things that Metro can control. I mean, this kind of comes back to the idea of, hey, this is public land, therefore we can respond to community preference. The lease agreement itself isn't going to speak to any of that. Is that correct?
You're recognized.
Yeah, that is correct. A lease agreement with a private entity would not speak to those Metro policies.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Councilmember O'Connell. Is there any, I want to be respectful of the Affordable Housing and Budget and Finance Committees, which we are running late on, but Councilmember Benedict.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing me to speak here in your committee on which I don't serve. I have some questions in regards to some of the lease terms. So it says we have the costs incurred are equal to, extending the closing would increase the purchase price by $500,000. I'm curious where that, and I think it's lease terms, so I'm hopeful that you'll entertain this. If I'm incorrect, please tell me.
That's a little bit of a finance question,
okay,
unfortunately.
We'll move that to finance. Yeah. Sorry, Chair, as I look through here. I was thinking about market rate for tent. You want to move that to budget and finance?
Yeah,
okay.
Yes, please.
Thank you, if you'll bear with me. Thank you, Chair, as I'm running through my questions, so that's all of that. From a comparative market analysis, is that appropriate for this?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so do we know what the current, and we've had a little bit of discussion about this, but do we know what the current market value is of, for instance, Rivergate Mall or Bellevue Mall, some of the dark malls that are out there, and how does that compare to the value, in particular Bellevue? How does that compare to at the time the lease was signed as compared to where things are now? And how do we anticipate that, and when we look at the lease terms of this deal, how would that change, or would it change? Is there anything to learn from that, I guess?
Sure. The appraisal materials, I hope the council received them submitted on Wednesday for both properties, and then sort of an update to the appraisals by Randy Buttons more recently. Bottom line is, I'm sure you saw the appraised value of the two properties was 43.2, I believe, and the acquisition costs being at 44. Mr. Button's report then went back to make clear that across the U.S., the typical comparison values were to the dead malls or dark malls, I think he called them, vacant to semi-vacant. The implication I read there was that should you have a major leasehold interest a la Vanderbilt, that you can probably look at a substantially higher estimated or expected value upon the execution of that leasehold. He also made clear that the fact that the anchor properties are going to be occupied regardless of the mall transaction, and again, our reading in that was that would have a beneficial effect on the value. In terms of specifically the values for Rivergate, I'm not, if that was in that report, I did not recall seeing it or recall what that value was.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Sorry, thank you, Chair. I have one more question, if I may.
Go ahead.
So, and again, this is kind of borderline, but in the contract, and I'm in residential real estate, but I see things like due diligence. And so in section 21, it says the repairs and replacements will be the obligation of VUMC to the extent of which is subject to their due diligence now. My question is, what if there's more that comes up after their due diligence period? I know that the contract has provisions in there, but before we go under contract and after the due diligence period, hypothetically, and again, I don't think this will happen, but I want to know, what if there's an issue and they don't disclose it? Again, I don't want to walk into a partnership not trusting each other, right? We always want to trust each other, but transparency is important in order for that to happen. So what if they know of an issue during their due diligence process and they don't disclose it, therefore it's not their obligation, but later it becomes ours? How do we protect ourselves from that? How do we protect the taxpayers from that?
So just below that section, I believe, it makes clear that Vanderbilt would be responsible for the ongoing repairs and maintenance of the properties they occupy. So if there's, I'll just make something up, if there's a hole in the roof and they don't bother to disclose that to us, but that's on the property they occupy, A, that's on them for the next 20 years or however long they intend to occupy the property. But B, that remains on them during their leasehold interest of the property, not on Metro.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Chair.
And I do want to...
I appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. So I will go back to Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we have this discussion, it occurs to me that Councilmember Young is not in this committee, but I would ask the administration if we will expect a plan to also buy Rivergate going forward.
I'll float that to Councilman Young and see what he has in mind.
Got it.
All right.
All right. Any other discussion? I do want to move things along so we can get back to our other committees, which are running a little bit late. Any other discussion on the planning and zoning and transportation piece? All right. So the motion on the floor is a motion to approve. It is properly seconded. All right, I think I'm going to do a roll call vote of the committee members, since this is the committee recommendation. Chair votes aye. Councilmember Bradford. Councilmember Gamble. This is for move for a recommendation of approval. Councilmember Hager and Hall. Councilmember Murphy. Thank you. Councilmember O'Connell. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Parker. Thank you. Vice Chair Rutherford. Thank you. Councilmember Sepulveda. Councilmember Sepulveda, this is for a recommendation of approval. Do you vote aye or nay? Abstain. Thank you. Councilmember Van Rees. Thank you. Councilmember Welsh. No. All right, so the committee recommendation is 6 in favor, 3 against, and 1 abstention. And I believe that concludes the business of the Planning and Zoning Committee for today. So thank you, everyone, for your patience. We have a lot of items on today's agenda. I'll now turn it over to Councilmember Parker for the Affordable Housing Committee. Thank you.